We are live. On your next clean piece of notebook paper, put your first and last name. Underneath your first and last name, put the date, which is the 22nd. Okay, if you're doing the arts and crafts, maybe just hold up or only glue in the one that we're on or something. First and last name, date. On the far left, command and control, will you activate
the slideshow?
the slideshow? No, I don't have a title for this one, do I? Okay, I have no title today. I forgot about that. Thought we had one. That must have been 8th grade. So again, following along, I've already printed the PowerPoint out for you, but there's some blanks on yours. All you really need to do is fill in the blanks, and if I say something extra on top of the slide, write whatever I say extra. You could be highlighting it if you want. It's your interactive spiral. Oh, I know what I want to ask. Jackson, two things we need to one thing we need to remember President Jackson for. I said, whenever you hear Andrew Jackson for the rest of today, for the rest of your life, always think what?
Hate.
Huh?
Hate.
Hate, yeah, but of who?
The Trail of Tears.
Okay, well, who are...
Donkey.
No. Hate and Trail of Tears were in the ballpark. What is that? Who's that deal with?
Native Americans.
Native Americans. Okay, Andrew Jackson. His claim to fame is how he dealt with Native Americans. Here comes a second claim to fame. Let's roll. It says paragraph 1, on top of the conflict with the Native Americans and white settlers, what state was that we learned about on Friday where there's a problem? And the Native Americans had to go. They had to leave. What state was that?
Georgia.
Georgia, because there was what in Georgia?
There was gold.
There was gold. So on top of the conflict between Native Americans and white settlers, President Jackson also faced parts of the U.S. in conflict with the issue of slavery. So we have two things to remember Jackson for: Native Americans and dealing with slavery. Got it? Native Americans and dealing with slavery. It says here, sounds possibly like the beginning of a civil war. Yes, we are getting really close to Civil War, okay? Native Americans and slavery. It says A, in 1819, Missouri applied to become a new state. Okay, every state becomes, whenever a state gets enough population, they can become a real legal U.S. state when they get enough population. So Missouri has enough population, they would like to become a state. So we say, okay, what kind of state would you like to be? Free or slave? Missouri in 1819 applied to become a new state, a slave state. Let's look at number 1 here. It says the problem is this would give the U.S. more slave states than we had free states. And that's going to be a problem. Okay? It's not fair, it's not balanced, it's not equal. Balance being the key word here. Many of you girls last week when I was announcing the quietest, hardest working male who participated in class award, who gets to hold the door with a cookie, many of you girls said, oh, what about us? We don't get anything? Okay, so it's not fair, it's not balanced. We would possibly have more slave states than free states. The free states don't like that. Let's look at a map real fast and I'll come back to this. So here is our country at this time. The green states would all be the free ones. The orange states, aka the South, would be all our slave states. If we have too many of these, the North is going to be unhappy. If we have too many of these, the South is going to be unhappy. It has to stay balanced. Command and Control, will you take us to the video? Balance. Balance. If you lose your balance, we have too much of one kind of state. Oh, too many slave states. Too many slave states. Oh, we have too many. Yeah, too many free states. No balance. Got to keep your balance. This guy might be the best example of not having balance.
Yeah.
Again, the word of the day is balance.
That was just him being too.
Command and control after this one. All right, go ahead and pause it. Get us back to our screen there. Okay, so let's think about balance a little bit more here. Balance in like our life. What's the number one problem with all these people on the video? They can't maintain their balance. There's a lot of things they have to factor in to be balanced, right? We have things we have to factor in. We have friends, we have, some of us have church groups or sports teams, or mom does this job at this time. We have lots of things to factor in order for us to stay balanced, okay? We are, in our lesson today, currently experience a problem with balance. Missouri wants to become a slave, so we've got to do something to make the free states happy. So let's look at letter B. To make both sides happy, the Missouri Compromise in Congress allowed Missouri to become a slave state, so they went ahead and did that, and also let Maine become a free state. Okay, so now we have balance. We have one for the slaves, Missouri, one for the free state, Maine. We are balanced. Okay, what we're going to do now is, and I'm going to ask you to keep it down because we're going to go out into the hall. We have classes out in the hall. When we go out there, you don't need to bring anything with you, but I want to display my balance on a skateboard. First, I'm going to do this one, and our visual is going to be is if I can actually stay on this, I have kept my balance, right? So that means I would be the Missouri Compromise, right? If I fall off to the right, or the skateboard goes to the right, then we're going to say that that is a free state, because states should be free, that's right. But if I were to fall off to the left, we're going to say that that is a slave state, and we're going to see how many out of the best of 5. Am I the Missouri Compromise staying balanced, or am I more of a free type state, or to the left, a slave type state? I do have my camera ready for this.
Yay.
So this will be up on the class video today too. So when I say go, we're going to go out the hall, take a left, and we're going to go into that vending machine area. No, you cannot be running around and not paying attention. This is part of the lesson. We're seeing if I can stay balanced, or am I going to look like those people on the video that we just watched a minute ago, okay? So go ahead and don't pack up, but get up. I am to fall off to the left. That will represent slave states. What I'll do is like a best of 3 or a best of 5. So
It's going to fail.
can you move that over here? I am going to get my Missouri Compromise and put over here. And I am going to go at a high rate of speed that way.
He's gonna fail miserably.
Guys, can you come up here and act like you're paying a little bit of attention? Just fake it. Oh, we're good. We have multiple cameras going on today.
Double camera on camera. Watch out for the rolling thing that's coming down the hall.
Come on, kids. Okay. We are ready to roll. So that was to the right. That was to the right. So which state was that? Free state.
I don't feel safe.
That was better. That was to the left. A slave state. Okay, Chase, let's do a board change. Let's get out the big boy now.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think you can do this one.
I'm on camera.
Thanks. Let's Missouri compromise it up. Okay, so Missouri Compromise, it's basically an agreement between the United States that we're going to let Missouri become slave, we're going to let Maine become free, okay? So let's look at this slide. I think you guys all have this slide in your interactive spirals, I believe. So what we're going to do first is we're going to look at the free state side. I can't believe I still have to skateboard another class. I just realized that. Okay, free states, we're going to look at the free states first. Now looking at our map, let's just come up with a list of 3 and write them underneath here. What is one free state at this time? Yeah. Ohio. Ohio, so go ahead and just write O-H. I-O. Love those letters. Another one, a second free state at this time? Haley? Maine, that's part of the Missouri Compromise. So let's add Maine as a free state. Yeah. And Pennsylvania. My father was just there. I used to go to Pennsylvania quite a bit. Pennsylvania is also a free state. Let's go to the other side. To keep it balanced, let's do 3. Can anyone name one slave state?
Florida.
Florida. They want and need slaves in Florida. Command and control?
Alabama.
Alabama. They feel like they want or need slaves at this time. And Nico?
Arkansas.
Arkansas, which is actually at this time part of Oklahoma, is part of Arkansas at that time. So yes, the goal is to keep the same number of northern free states as southern slave states. Any questions so far? We kind of get it, balance? I didn't have very good balance on my first go around on that thing, right? All right, here we go. So now we know 2 things about Andrew Jackson. What are the 2 hot topics about Andrew Jackson? Now, Britt, one? Say, what are the two topics, though?
The Indians moving.
Native Americans, and what's the other one we just learned today? Andrew Jackson, we need to remember Native Americans and
Slavery.
slavery. Those are his two hot topics, but here comes a third hot topic. Another dispute President Jackson had was how to handle a tariff. Okay? This is not in your notes, so you might want to write this to the side. Some might think I've said it before. What's a synonym for tariff? A tariff is it's a tax. So if on the test I say, what are President Jackson's three hot topics? How to deal with Native Americans, how to deal with slavery, how to deal with this tax. Okay, let's see what this tax is. Let's see what the problem is. It says this tax raised the cost on manufactured imports, things that were made somewhere else and shipped. Okay, that's what it is. There's a tax on things that are made somewhere else and shipped to you. So let's try the South. Let's do one side of the battle. Let's try the South and see what they say. The South, because it was not as developed, it was not as large, and it relied heavily on manufactured goods. So if they're relying heavily on things being made and shipped to them, that means they're going to have to pay a lot of the tax. The South says, no. This tax is a terrible idea. Okay, the South hates this idea of the tax. So every time the South were to have something shipped to them in the South, what we just said, they would be taxed. Okay, let's go to the other side. The North. The North rarely had anything sent to them. They're not going to have to pay the tax. Nothing hardly ever gets shipped to the North. You know why? Because the North has the factories, and that's where everything gets made in the first place. They don't have to pay for shipping. They don't have to pay for a tax on imported goods because they're the ones probably making it. So out of the North and the South, who hates this tax the most?
The South.
The South. This is bogus. And down here again, I smell the brewings of a civil war. We're having problems with northern states and southern states. We're having problems with slavery. The Civil War is right around the corner. Pretty soon this room will have a piece of tape going right down the middle, and half of you will be northerners, half of you will be southerners. You will never talk to each other in the class for those 2 weeks, and you will be out on the battlefield with them. Life is going to change. South, you put your nose up at the North. North, you put your nose up at the South. We have a problem. Americans versus Americans. That sounds like a dumb problem. Any questions on this tax and how the South hated it and the North is like, whatever, because it doesn't affect us? Yes?
What does tariff mean?
Tariff means tax. Yes?
Well, what's the difference between, I have slavery and dealing with tax on tariffs.
The three hot topics. How to deal with the Native Americans, how to deal with slavery, and the tax. Got them? Beautiful. Okay, so the South hates the tax. Here we go. It says in 1830, President Jackson's vice president, the dude who probably worked in the same office as him, the dude who was President Jackson's assistant, his main man announced, we ain't paying this new tax. Like what? It's kind of like you guys. This is what I said in my first hour. It's kind of like, you need $20 for Friday night. You're going out with some friends. Dad, can I have $20? No. Mom, can I have $20? Yeah. We have a problem between Mom and Dad. They are not communicating with each other very well, are they? And some of you know which one to go to. Some of you know, oh, Dad's the go-to. Mom's the go-to. We have a problem with the leadership in your house. Mom and Dad aren't on the same page. We have the president and the vice president not on the same page. The vice president says, we ain't paying no tax. You want to know who that vice president is? Right here. John C. Calhoun, ironically, of South Carolina, who refuses to pay the tax. Okay, so Calhoun, he is the vice president. He is the one that says we are not paying this tax. He's sticking up for all southern states. Let's go to letter A real fast. It says, Calhoun argued that each state should have the right to nullify. Each state, does that sound like a strong federal government or a small limited government?
Strong.
No, that sounds like a small limited government where each state gets to do whatever they want. He thought that each state should get to have the right to nullify. Here's 3 synonyms for nullify. Make sure you get them. Nullify means to ignore the tax or possibly void the tax, or each state should be allowed to cancel the tax if you want. Can you imagine if I had the right to cancel a tax? Like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and nullify. That tax on my shirt that's adding like $8 extra, I'm going to go ahead and nullify that. No, thank you. Thanks for the offer. You can't nullify. Calhoun is arguing that each state has the choice to figure out if this is unconstitutional. So, like, he's telling me, like, Florida could say, okay, we'll pay the tax, but then the state right next to him could say no. And then the state over here could say, this is stupid. Like, each state gets to decide. This doesn't make an ounce of sense. Okay, but here's what we got. Letter B. It says, eventually the tax was temporarily resolved, and a much softer law was issued. So John C. Calhoun kind of won his argument. They got rid of it, but they did something a little softer, not as brutal to the South. I think they realized that, you know what, this is not affecting the North at all. This is terrible for the South. Calhoun won his complaint. Any questions over Calhoun's argument about this tax? Do we all understand that? Good. Both of us do? Because 2 people answered?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, 4 people understand now. Good. Making me feel good that I stay up late trying to think of this creative, awesome lesson that 4 people get it. Awesome. I'll keep staying up really late for you guys. Here's our president. Here's our vice president. I don't know if you remember the old show Seinfeld, but this reminds me of Kramer. You know that show? Yeah, this is like Kramer. This is the guy that says we ain't paying the tax. Okay? What I'd like you to do is to do a quick sketch of him. Just kidding. What do we got? 1, 2. We got like 3 slides. We got 3 slides. It says no. It says the Southern economy. So let's just for today pretend that you guys over here are the South. Okay, you guys are the South. It says the Southern economy depended heavily on slavery. That's how you made your money, is with slavery. You made your money with the cotton gin. And another one that's not on here, bonus knowledge. You made your money with tobacco. Okay? Slavery, cotton, the cotton gin, and tobacco. If you're not growing that, if you're not selling that, then your Southern economy, your Southern way of life is not really good at all. You relied on that. So let's take a quick break right here. Not a total break here, but on page 120, let's get some books out. I guess I forgot to tell you to get some books. On page 120, it tells us what a cotton gin is. Let's figure out what a cotton gin is, okay? All right, so what did we get? What's the definition of a cotton gin in your words? I don't want like Webster's dictionary. Yeah?
I think that cleans cotton.
It's basically a machine that cleans cotton. Cotton is a crop. It's out in the dust fields. It's out in the sun all day. It is pretty filthy. My grandmother grew up in a southern state of Mississippi. I spent my summers in Mississippi. When she was little, she was not a slave, but she spent the summers picking cotton. So she'd be going through these massive fields, picking the cotton. Her hands would get really dry from picking cotton, and they would crack, and her hands at times, fingers, she said, would be bloodied. I know we're probably thinking of cotton as like, oh, a cotton ball, that doesn't weigh much, but the bags that these slaves would have had would hold like 60, 80, 100 pounds of cotton at a time. And they're just dragging it through this field with the sun blazing down them. That's their job. From sunrise to sunset, that's what they do. So don't think cotton picking sounds really easy. It's not. I was also, when I grew up in Ohio, I worked on the cornfields, and I would have to walk through the cornfields, pulling out little pieces of the corn stalk that were bad for the corn by hand. It's hard work. So don't think of like, oh, it's like a little cotton. It's like a Build-A-Bear workshop. The cotton spinning around. No. This is like 100-pound bags of cotton in the blazing hot sun. Okay. Where were we? We were, yikes, here. Cotton gin. What is a cotton gin? It's basically that machine that cleans cotton. Because of the large number of slaves and the invention of the cotton gin, the Southern economy, that's you guys who said, right? Because of the slaves and because of the cotton gin, it says the Southern economy was booming. Things could not be better for you guys. What was that third crop? Someone over here, what's that third crop? Cotton gin, slaves, and... Britt? Okay. Tobacco. Don't forget that. The Northerners knew it. The economy was booming and actually beginning to spread. Things are really good in the South. Especially since you got that tax taken away. Let's look at the cotton gin real fast. So basically what happens is they would have these large bags of cotton. They would dump it in on this side, filthy. There'd be seeds in it. It goes in here. It goes through here. They crank it, spin it, whatever. The seeds, or hopefully most of the seeds, would drop. Then it goes into another little section where it spins it this way, cleans it, and it comes out. I mean, it's not like bright white clean, but it's way cleaner than what it was. Obviously, we know what we can use cotton for. What are some things we can use cotton for?
Shirts.
Shirts.
Dolls.
Dolls. Blankets. Socks. Like, cotton is used for a lot of things. And who is supplying the cotton to all the United States? The South. The South is booming. Okay, because of the cotton gin, slavery, and what's that third one again, Britt?
Tobacco.
Yes! Thank you. Okay, so here's our last little, two more, I guess. It says most cotton was grown on huge plantations that had a large number of slaves. You're not going to have a huge plantation with 3 slaves. The bigger the plantation, the more slaves there were. It says, but even white southern farmers with no slaves still supported slavery because they knew it helped their economy. Many of them had hoped to eventually become slave owners. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a slave owner. Many of them hoped to become a slave owner just because they know the money involved in it. And experience the financial rewards that came with cotton, slavery, and then that third one, tobacco. Even if they didn't have slaves, that was a business they wanted to get into for the money. Question?
So this goes back to the first slide. So, why would the states want to be like slave states instead of free?
Because they know the money. And in the slave, they don't have, like, the North has big businesses and factories and the South, really what they have at this time is just fields of crops. And they need slaves to do the work for them. Yeah.
So they don't pay the slaves, which saves them money.
Saves the money. They kind of give them a room at night and feed them a little bit, enough so that they're healthy enough to do the work. But yeah, they don't have to pay them really. So they're saving that money too. They're getting them to all do the work for them so they don't have to. Okay? Any questions on this slide here? Those were 2 really good ones, yeah?
Okay, so you know how tobacco slaves and the cotton gin? What does that like fall under? Like what?
Say that again.
So someone depends on tobacco slaves.
The South does. The South. Okay, South is all about farming. That's you guys. North, you're going to figure out here in the next few days that you're all about businesses and factories. You guys would wear suits to work. You guys would wear trousers to work. Okay, they would ride the train. You would ride a wagon. It's just two different lifestyles. Okay? The only thing I want you to get on here is that line at the top. Was this one in your... Did I include this one? Okay, then just get this one line. It says in about 1840, about 1/3, 1 out of every 3 people in the South was a slave. I don't know if you can do fraction to percentage decimals as fast as I can. That's 33%. 0.3 with a bar over it. 33% of every person in the South was a slave. Just looking at this, I mean, dark browns means there's a large population of slavery. Middle orange is kind of a medium amount, and then light oranges. I mean, you can see lots, especially in here. We have thousands of slaves in this area. There's actually very little white space in the southern, very little few spots of white. There are slaves throughout the South. All right, last little bit. To survive the brutal living and working conditions of African Americans, they relied on 2 things. And I'd like to think that these are the 2 things that I rely on. Family and faith. They didn't have the extravagant clothes. They didn't have the nice house. They didn't have the thing that helped them with their lifestyle was their family and their faith. Okay, I mean, I'm going to give my opinion here. Again, you don't have to think it, but when it comes down to it, do you really have to have that kind of car, that kind of house, that kind of clothes? When it comes down to it, I feel like the only thing we really need is family, friends, and maybe add another one here, family, friends, and faith. If you have that, you probably have a pretty good life. All the other stuff's just extra. Okay, what I want you to do now, and I forget the textbook page, Trevor, you're on it. The one on the page, what page number is the one on the right? What page is that? 121. 121. At the very top of 121, it's like 4 lines. At the very top of 121, it tells you a little bit about a man named Frederick Douglass. This is Frederick Douglass. I just want you to add anything you think you should add about Frederick Douglass from those 4 lines. And then I need to tell you what the map is for, okay? I'll be back in 2 minutes. Oh, we're good. We have multiple cameras going on today. Come on, kids. Okay, we are ready to roll. Okay, so that was to the right. Shh, guys. That was to the right. So which state was that? Free State. I'm good. Okay, that was bad. That was to the left. A slave state. Okay, Chase, let's do a board change. Let's get out the big boy now. Thanks. Let's Missouri compromise it up. Missouri All right, cut it. Cut it. All right, back into class.
That was awesome.
Yeah, first fall was wicked.